Hello, welcome to Performance, Not Politics with candidate for State Senator John Keenan. My name is Victor Gravio. I'm here today with City Councilor at Large in Quincy, John Keenan, who is running for State Senate. John, welcome.
Welcome, Vic. Thank you.
John, you're out working hard, campaigning for State Senate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for the Senate?
Well, I guess I'll start with why I'm running for the Senate first. I've been involved in local government now for several years, and what I've learned is that you can make a difference in government. And particularly in areas of finance and economic development, I think I've had an impact here in the city of Quincy. And when I see what's going on at the state level, I want to bring that skill set basically to the state Senate and have an impact there and try to make a difference. There's a lot to be done, and it's exciting times. Some people say, why do you want to get involved at this particular time? But the reason I do is because there's so much going on. They're challenging issues, and I look forward to the challenge. As far as my background and what I've been doing, I've been on the city council for a few years, but just by way of history, I guess, I was raised here in the city of Quincy, went to the Quincy Public Schools. I was the fourth of 7 children of Philip and Loretta Keenan. We grew up in Wollaston, not far from the Wollaston School. Went to the Quincy Public Schools, graduated from North Quincy High School in 1982, which doesn't seem that long ago, but it's quite a few years ago now. And after North Quincy High, I went on to Harvard University, where I studied government. And from Harvard University, I went on to Suffolk University Law School. When I got out of law school, I started practicing law, primarily doing defense litigation, insurance defense litigation, representing homeowners, businesses, and other individuals involved in insurance claims that had claims filed against them, basically. And I did some public defender work, and I also did some insurance fraud work, not so much promoting insurance fraud, but combating insurance fraud. And unfortunately, back at that time, there was quite a bit going on in the Commonwealth. And that brought me to cities all across the state, so it was a great experience. But while I was doing that, I was also involved in the local level. I was first appointed chairman of what was then called the Mayor's Commission on Handicapped Affairs by Frank McCauley, who was mayor. And I was then, after that, appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals in Quincy by Mayor Jim Sheets. And I served on the Zoning Board for about 7 years. And that was just a great experience. After the Zoning Board, while still practicing law, I just kind of felt the pull to government. It's what I had studied in college. So in 1997, I went to work in the city of Quincy as executive secretary to Jim Sheets, to Mayor Jim Sheets. And that was a great job. I was there for about 4 years and felt the pull again and decided to run for city council. First time out, I wasn't successful, came very close, but just finished out of the running. And then about a year after that, when Tim Cahill was elected state treasurer, a seat on the city council opened up, and I was appointed to that seat. And I have served on there ever since. I've been reelected for the past 7 years, and in the last election, the voters were kind to me, and I was the top vote getter in the city council at large election. So I've been involved in government for a while. It's been a great experience, and again, it's local government experience, and I think some of the things that I've learned at the local level I can bring to the state level. As far as personal, I met my wife Jean, who grew up in Quincy, on election day in Wollaston, and we were married back in 1991. We have 3 boys now, and 2 of them in high school, 2 teenagers, which is very interesting. And a 10-year-old, which is great. They're great kids. We're very fortunate, and we live down in Marymount area of Quincy, and we're very fortunate.
It's great. Well, topping the ballot in the council at large election, certainly that's quite an endorsement from the voters of Quincy. They must be very pleased with the work you've done on the council. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your focus has been on the city council?
Sure. the title of the show is Performance, Not Politics. And ever since I first went into government, I've tried to focus on the issue of what's at hand as opposed to the politics of the issues. And that's what's driven me mostly. And I've been primarily involved in the finances at the City Council. I've been the City Council Finance Chairman now, I think, for coming up on 6 years, might even be more than that. I was first asked to serve as Finance Chair by Council President Frank McCauley, then Council President Doug Gutrow asked me to stay on as Finance Chair, Council President Jay Davis asked me to stay on, and then Council President Coughlin, President City Council President, asked me to stay, and I've been happy to do that. It's been a great experience. I've learned a lot about local municipal finance, again, things that will be very helpful at the state level. So that's been the focus, and as everybody knows, there's been some difficult financial times, not only in Quincy, but in towns and cities throughout the Commonwealth. And I think Quincy has done a pretty good job of weathering the storm. We've avoided Proposition 2.5 overrides. We've stayed within our means when it comes to spending. And we've worked hard to keep a reasonable tax bill in place.
It's not always easy, especially in these times, and clearly your colleagues on the council must value your efforts and your work as the chair of the finance subcommittee to have you be reappointed each term. So that's very impressive. Tell us a little bit about the campaign, how it's going, what you've been doing, what you're hearing out on the trail.
It's going well. It's been very hot. We've just come through the second hottest July on record, so of all summers to choose to run for state senate, this had to be the summer, but it's going really well. And I've been out every night door knocking in the weather, as hot as it's been. I think some people think I'm crazy, but people have been very kind at the doors. They've been offering me water. People have had me into their house to sit in the air conditioning. I was sitting with a woman out in Squantum last week. She lived down the end of one of the dead ends right near the water. It was just a great night to catch a nice breeze off the water in the marsh. So people have been very good. We've done the door knocking, as I say, in every town in the district, and we are looking to continue with that. I'll be out every single night from now to Election Day. Also have a great group of volunteers that are doing standouts that are out there in the morning and evenings. We have some people who are out there at 7:15 in the morning with me, and then they'll be back out there at 5 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon. So they've been great group of volunteers. And I have to say the response throughout the district in Abington, Rockland, Holbrook, Braintree, and Quincy has just been great. People have been very receptive. There's still some confusion as to who's running for what office, but they have been very receptive, and I couldn't ask for a better basically a better group to be involved with, and a kind electorate, so to speak.
Right. Well, it's volunteers are the lifeblood of any campaign, and you've got a strong core group, and I know it's growing every day. What are you hearing from people when you're out on the trail, when you're knocking on doors? What issues are on people's minds?
It's mostly the economy and finances. In a general sense, people are concerned about the economy. They're worried that the economy is not rebounding as fast as it possibly could, or what they had hoped or expected. And you find that it's hitting people pretty much in all segments of the economy. You find that there are people involved in the trades who are out of work. The unemployment rate in the trades is astronomical. And you find it in pretty much all other sectors of the economy as well. I was down in Braintree, must be about 2 months ago now, I would guess, maybe more, knocking doors in a very, very nice neighborhood. And I was just talking with a woman, and I commented what a nice house she had in a great neighborhood, and she said, unfortunately, may not have it much longer. She had lost her job. She'd been out of work for over a year. She was in the financial services industry, which is a big part of our economy, had been unsuccessful in finding work, and was worried about whether she'd be able to keep her house. So you hear those types of stories, and it highlights the fact that although there's some signs of recovery, there's still a lot of people who are worried about the economy and are worried that they're not going to be able to get employed again or keep their job. And beyond the economy, people are concerned at the local level about what's happening with local government and finances, and particularly property taxes. So those are probably the two of the biggest issues that we've come across out there.
Well, that story about the woman in Braintree certainly hits home why this campaign is so important and why this election is such an important election this year. So property taxes, what's going on in the different towns, cities and towns in the district with property taxes?
Well, they're all struggling with property taxes, and the reason they're struggling is twofold, or two main factors. One is that local receipts, the money that's brought into local level through fees and fines, all those numbers are down. Automobile excise tax is a big local fee, or that's relied upon by the local municipalities. That's down. People aren't buying cars. So the amount that the cities and towns collect in excise tax is dropping because the cars are older and the tax on those older cars is less. So that's impacting the local coffers. And the other thing that's having a dramatic impact is local aid. Local aid has been cut due to the financial situation at the state level, and it's having a drastic impact at the local level. People are worried about police, fire, schools, infrastructure needs. A lot of that is being met, but it's been a real challenge and a real struggle to meet that. So what has happened over the years is, the last couple of years, is the local aid reductions have occurred. There's been a move to look at the property tax. And I know Rockland had to vote for overrides. They did. They've stabilized things. Abington is struggling as recently as a couple months ago with the override issue. And the overrides did not pass, and now they're looking at shutting down some departments. So that's had a pretty dramatic impact in that town. In Rockland, I know even with the overrides, they're still talking about what they're going to do for buy a new fire truck, for instance. Holbrook, they had to give money back to the state because they couldn't come up with matching funds for their library project. So here was some state money that was available. They had to give it back because they couldn't come up with the local funds. And here in Quincy, we've seen cutbacks in pretty much every department in the city. So it's been a struggle, and people are worried about that. They're worried about what is going to happen to their communities as a result of cutbacks in local aid.
Well, as a local elected official, you're really on the front lines of government, and people, I think, really relate closely to their local officials. So what's the sense you have people is feeling what's going on in government these days?
There's a general sense of frustration. And it's interesting you mentioned about local government. I mean, from what I'm hearing from people is that the frustration is particularly at the federal level and also at the state level. There seems to be less frustration at the local level. I think the reason for that is because they're in more constant contact with their elected local representatives. Whether you're on the city council or school committee, excuse me, in Quincy, or a board of selectmen school committee in the towns, or several other committees that the towns have, you see those people in the supermarket, you see them at the ballpark, you see them out and about, and those type of elections you can get out and knock on doors. So they don't have as much of frustration local officials as they do with state and federal. At the federal level, they're frustrated with the economy. They are extremely frustrated with the situation in the Gulf. You're running for state senate, you wonder what questions you'll be asked, and that comes up quite a bit as a topic that frustrates people. Not so much a question, but just that they're not happy about the situation. And at the state level, most recently, within the last couple of days when I've been out knocking doors, people have commented on the fact that it always seems at the state level of government that government is very slow and that they put things off, and then there's a big rush at the last minute to get things done. And I think we've just seen that with regard to the gambling and casino legislation. People are extremely frustrated that that was put off to the last minute and that there was a big push, and that those who favor it are upset that it didn't pass, and those that are opposed, even though they're happy that it hasn't passed so far, they're worried what's going to happen with it next, and they don't believe that it was addressed properly. So you get that sense out there, and then at the state level there's also a frustration with what has happened with some of the political figures at the state level. There's been some pretty high-profile ethics cases and corruption cases, and people have expressed frustration with that as well. So there's some frustration out there. There's no doubt about it.